Shalom, this is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. We are now about to discuss the prophecy of Isaiah concerning the lost 10 tribes in the west. The Isaiah and the other prophets predicted the lost 10 tribes of Israel would be amongst Western nations. By Western nations we mean the USA, Canada, Ireland, Wales, England, Scotland, the British Isles in other words, France, Switzerland, Holland, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the offshoots of Britain such as Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and people in South Africa. And they are the peoples of the lost tribes. The lost tribes are to be found. As we have said several times and repeated again and again, we do not say that everyone in those regions belongs to the lost tribes. We say that is where the lost tribes are. That is where they are to be found according to prophecy, according to our researchers. Lost tribes are to be found amongst Western nations. They may be the majority of the people in some regions, or they may be a minority, but that is where they are. And they historically and biblically have left their imprint on their region. They have given expression to their Israelite ancestry through the national characteristics that evolved in those regions. And in the future, that is where they will emerge from. And Isaiah predicted this, and so did the other prophets. So one of the signs that Isaiah says concerning the lost 10 tribes is that at some stage they would cause Africans, people from Africa, to pass over the seas in chains. In other words, as slaves to them, as indeed happened when the British and the French took African slaves that they bought from other Africans. They took them and they took them across the seas to North America. That's where the Negro populations of the USA come from. And they have been important in, amongst the North American people. Quite a few Americans have some genetic input from Negroes. Even Winston Churchill was a great British Prime Minister. He had red hair and blue eyes, but his mother was a little bit darker than him. She was from America. And he had the notion that somewhere up there along the chain of genealogy in his mother's line there was a black African, and there may well have been. And what applies to him applies to other people as well. And also the Americans have been influenced by the Africans in their music, in their culture, and their attitudes in many ways. Might be negative, might be positive, but the influence has been there. They have been a feature. They have been a cause of developing the USA characteristics that they have developed. And so this is important. It has been important. It is an identifying characteristic. Isaiah also said that the merchandise of India, of Kush, would be important to them, that they would enjoy it, and the British did. The British Empire became great in many ways through the benefits that accrued to it, through its possession of India, and even now, Britain continues to enjoy the fruits of investment in India and of Indian investment in it, in Britain. The links are important to the British economy. So to the Suez Canal was another feature of the British and also indirectly of the French empires. It brought to them advantages, and this happened recently and has important, and Isaiah seems to have referred to it. So these are proofs, these are indications that the lost 10 tribes are in the British and American nations, as we will show. And these proofs, these points of evidence, should be taken into cognizance. They should be recognised. They should be weighed and put together with the hundreds of other proofs and evidence and factors that we can bring all together to show that as one complete holistic body of proof that all points in the same direction. The lost 10 tribes are amongst Western nations. This is just one of them, and it is worthwhile considering. So we have two in Isaiah. We have two references to this phenomenon. One is Isaiah 43:3. It says, "For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Saviour. I gave Egypt for your ransom, Ethiopia, and the Hebrew Cush and Saba for you." And again in 45:14, Isaiah said, "Thus says the Lord, the labour of Egypt and merchandise of Ethiopia and Hebrew Cush, and of the Sabaeans, men of stature, big, tall, black Africans, shall come over to you, and they shall be yours. They shall come after you. In chains they shall come over unto you. They shall make supplication unto you, saying, surely God is in you, and there's none else, there's no other God." So this is what has happened, and this is proof. And we have to just to lighten up a little bit to show you the whole thing in its context. We'll go through the whole of Isaiah from chapters 41 to 45, giving a summary of important verses that also, all of them refer to lost in tribes amongst Western nations. We also should mention that another point that we will deal with later, that the name of Cyrus, in Hebrew Koresh, Cyrus or Cyrus, he was the king of Persia. He was an important king. He founded the Achaemenid Empire. It was the Persian Empire in the classical sense. He was a major founder of it, and he conquered Babylon, and he conquered much of the Middle East. He attempted to conquer Egypt, did not succeed, but he conquered other areas. He conquered the Caucasus regions and Central Asia, and in the east he branched off. He penetrated India, and he established the Persian Empire, and he also allowed the Jews to return. The Jews, we should remember, the lost 10 tribes were 12 tribes of Israel. 10 tribes were in the north. The southern tribes, Judah and Benjamin, were in the south. There was two separate kingdoms that split apart. The Assyrians came down, conquered the 10 tribes, and took them away and exiled them, and they got lost. So they are the lost 10 tribes. And while Judah, the southern two tribes of Judah and Benjamin, remained, they, along with refugees who reached them from the north, but the dominant portion was that of Judah and Benjamin. They remained after the 10 tribes of exile. But then the Babylonians, who succeeded the Assyrians, the Babylonians conquered them, took them into exile, and they were exiled to Babylon for 70 years. Then along came Cyrus, conquered the Babylonians, and allowed those Jews who wished to return to do so. He also encouraged them, gave them permission to rebuild the temple, and he offered assistance to them in doing so. And Isaiah refers to Cyrus. Isaiah lived 70 years, about 70 years before Cyrus was even heard of. But he was a prophet, and he mentions his name. But he mentions his name incidentally, and he mentions his name as subservient to what he is talking about. This is the way of prophecy. A prophet is inspired. He says what he sees in his own language. Sometimes the sequences, the chronological sequences are jumbled up. Cyrus was important. Isaiah mentions Cyrus in connection to some other phenomenon where the other phenomenon that he mentioned, that he refers to with Cyrus in connection to, is the main point of what he's trying to say. In other words, Cyrus is used as an example to illustrate a point, and the point that needs to be illustrated is what Isaiah is concentrating upon. And this is important, or it's worth knowing, because there are those who try and say that these verses that we quoted referring to Cush and India and Saba and so on, that these are referring to the activities and the policies of Cyrus. And this is not so, because Cyrus did not reach all the way into those areas, so his son did, Cambyses did. But Cyrus was a sort of a pre-adumbration, a foreshadowing of the future Messiah, son of Joseph, will lead the lost 10 tribes back, and the aspects of his rulership that reflect on the future predicted activities of lost 10 tribes. So there is some type of connection, but we should keep things in perspective and remember that Cyrus is playing a minor role, and he is put there for illustrative purposes. His name is recorded for illustrative purposes, and even according to the simple meaning of the verses, he is not the person or the entity being spoken of. Israel is, in this case, Israel refers to the 10 tribes of Israel, and not to Judah, who are playing a different role, as we will see, as Isaiah himself says. Isaiah, he begins in verse 1 of chapter 41, he calls upon the islands to return to the truth. The islands are where the lost 10 tribes are dwelling, in other words, the British Isles. God will raise up his righteous representative to overcome his enemies, 41:2-3. God is the beginning and end and knows all that will be, 41:4. Israel is a servant of God and the servant people from the ends of the earth. Israel is at the ends of the earth, the geographical extremities, when the land of Israel is taken as the centre. Israel in the last days will be in the geographical extremities of the earth, that is America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Scandinavia, the Netherlands. It will also be not only at the ends of the earth, but the best places of the earth, the most salubrious, healthy climates, as well as being at the ends of the earth. In other words, the ends of the earth could also mean Siberia. But that's not where Israel is. Israel is in places that are more conducive to human well-being and human enterprise, that are, too, at the geographical extremities of the continental masses. God will help Jacob and Israel, that is the 10 tribes, and also Judah, Isaiah 41:14. And also all the Israelites will return to the land of great Israel, though we possess most of the Middle East. Miracles will happen. There will be climatic change, 41:18. Israel in the Isles will return to his law, 42:4. God has called Israel in righteousness to become a Brit-Am, reminiscence of Britain, a covenant of the people, in Hebrew, Brit-Am. Prophecy reveals what will come about, 42:9, as we are told. And so on. There will be a light to the nations, and they will help other nations. They will help other peoples. The emphasis is on islands. Israel dwelling in islands. 42:12. God will bring his people back, both in the physical sense and in the spiritual one. 41 verses 14-19. The tribes of Jacob and Israel, that is Joseph and Judah, will have been caused by sin, 42:20-25. Jacob and Israel, that is the 10 tribes of Judah, will be redeemed, 43:1. God will be with us no matter what happens, 43:2. Egypt will be given over for Israel to redeem itself. Cush, that is India, and both India and Africa, the term Cush referred to both India and to Africa, both in the biblical terminology and in Aramaic terminology and in the terminology of classical Greece. And also, not only that, but also in Assyrian writings, we have the same term, Meleka, referring to both to Egypt, or to the region beside Egypt, and to areas in western India, showing that there was a linkage between the two, and there was an association in the minds of Asian peoples between India and between Africa. And even writers saying that there were migrations between the two areas. Those ethnic links. And the Bible uses the term Cush to refer both to India and to Africa. And Isaiah seems to be, when he mentions Cush, he seems to be referring to both of them, according to the context of the verses. And we are told that peoples will be subject under Israel. God will bring Israel back from the east and from the west, 43:3-4. Israel and Judah will return from the north and the south, from afar, from the corners of the earth, 43:6. Every member of Israel has been called by God by his name, 43:7. God has called unto you by your name. Israel and Judah are the witnesses of God in this world, 43:10. Final return of Israel will be accompanied by miracles that, according to the simple meaning of certain verses, will be comparable to those of the original Exodus from Egypt. Israel has not called out to God and offered sacrifices, but has sinned, chapter 43. But God will forgive us. Literally, God is pleading with us to return unto him. for his sake and for our own sake. See 43 verse 26. Jacob is a servant of God. Jacob is also known, that is Israel, also known as Yeshurun, is chosen one of God. 43 verse 2. And in the end times, many of the descendants of Israel will be divinely inspired. 44:3. The Israelites will return. Some will especially return more in the religious sense, while others will identify with Judah, and others openly acknowledge their Israelite descent. See verse 44:3. There's only one God, and He is everything. 44:6. The people of Israel will bear witness as to the existence of God. 44:8. Muslims and heathen will be ashamed of their adulterous past, and Israel will see what has happened to them and will not go in their ways. See 44:9-20, though it may have done so previously. That is to be seen. Israel is a servant people of God. He has not begotten us. 44:1, and so on. And so we also, that is, from taking all of these verses together, we find that peoples in the West are from lost in tribes of Israel, and they were associated with Cush and with India, and with what will happen to them in the end times. And these are references helping us to identify them. Concerning Cyrus, we have references to Cyrus. Cyrus the Great was the founder of the Persian Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus is referred to by name in Isaiah 44:28, who is anointed to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held. And also in the next verse, 45:1, that says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd. And as we mentioned, Isaiah prophesied concerning Cyrus, and some have tried to place the verse 45, verse 14, in the context of the policies of Cyrus, but it doesn't hold together. And also the very name Cyrus is anointed, according to the grammatical structure of the sentence. There are amongst the sages there were those who said that his anointed does not refer to Cyrus. Cyrus was distinct from his anointed. They're two different people, but Cyrus is a kind of foreshadowing, a pre-adumbration of the Messiah, son of Joseph, who will enable the lost ten tribes to return, who will help effect a reconciliation between the lost ten tribes and Judah. At all events, it's quite clear from the context, from what is written, that Cyrus is a distinct entity. He has nothing to do with the lost ten tribes, but he serves as an illustration of what will happen, of the will. He had, Cyrus, as if to say, had something in the spirit the lost ten tribes will be imbued with in the end times, to return to God and to enable the people of Israel to return to the land of Israel and to reunite with Judah and to become one entity. The Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.